Welcome to the podcast From Heartache to Healing and Hope. Season 2, Weathering the Storm, Cultivating Kindness. And I'm your host, Bernadette Winters Bell.
Welcome. I'm Bernadette Winters Bell here at my podcast, From Heartache to Healing and Hope. And wait till you meet this special guest, Diane Rawlinson. Diane, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to take an estimated guess here and say, of the two of us, you know yourself best. So would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to my audience?
So I'm Diane. I am Diane Rawlinson. Actually, I go by professionally Diane Smagatz-Rawlinson sometimes because Diane Rawlinson is also, that's the name of Tanya Harding's choreographer. So I don't ever want to, yeah. So
that's not you.
No, that's not me. And so professionally, like for my writing and all that, I make sure that my maiden name is in there. But I'm Diane Rawlinson. I've been a dancer since I was 4 years old. I've been a dance educator since I was actually started teaching when I was 16. And I just a couple months ago, I actually retired from my position of 30 years as the dance teacher at Wheeling High School in the northern suburbs of Chicago. I have an undergraduate degree in dance education, a master's of fine arts in performance and choreography, taught college level dance for 7 years before I landed at the high school, and I have been involved in a lot of things in my life regarding dance and regarding the dance field, including writing and teaching and performing and yada, lots of stuff. So, lots of stuff. Married my high school sweetheart, and we've been married for 36 years, and I have two adult sons, both of them in the creative fields. So
excellent, wonderful. So what kind of dance do you like to teach and do?
So I've pretty much trained in almost all forms. If you've been I'm 60 years old. So, and you've been dancing that long, you pretty much train in a lot of different things. Musical theater, started in ballet, was a scholarship student at the Ohio Ballet as a child. As in my adult life, a lot of modern and jazz, but one of my favorite things, and at this point in my life, one of the things I'm most still involved in is improvisation, specifically InterPlay. Which is an improvisation form based in California that I have been involved with for most of my adult life. I got involved in the work when I was 27 years old, doing research for my master's. So I've been involved in the work since before it had a name. So I'd say my favorite is improvisation at this point. Plus, once I started having kids, I couldn't get to rehearsals anymore. And it kind of changes your life quite a bit.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And so when was it that you got into teaching at the high school level?
I started teaching at the high school in 1991. I was actually on the faculty at Northwestern University at that time. And my name was passed on to Wheeling High School. Didn't know there were jobs in the high schools in Illinois because I went to high school in Ohio and there were no dance teaching jobs in the schools in Ohio. So my name was passed on, and and I was interviewed and I started working 2 weeks later. I actually was directing a national dance festival like 4 days before I started teaching at Wheeling. So it was pretty whirlwind when I got there. And when I walked in the doors, they said, "Where have you been?" I said, "I didn't know there were jobs teaching in the high schools."
I was pretty impressed when I saw that you were teaching for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Because people in schools are striving and aching for creative arts. And I was thrilled to see that there were dance programs. I guess that leads the administration that guides that kind of joy there, you know?
Yeah, actually in the district I taught in, District 214, there have been dance programs in the schools in our actual district. There are 6 high schools in our district since the founding of the schools. The dance program, yeah, we went back through the history, and Wheeling opened in 1964, I think it was, and there was already a dance program there. So whoever, I don't even know who started it in all of our districts, in our district, but there is a dance program. There are a lot of dance programs in the schools in Illinois, because dance was, our PE was required for 4 years. So dance was an option in a lot of schools. So yeah, there's a lot of dance in the schools in Illinois, which has been a blessing.
Absolutely.
So. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And when you went in and they were looking for you, like, where have you been kind of thing, what kind of classes did you start with, or did they want?
Well, I mean, they just wanted someone to take over. Someone else had been there and then left the position for medical reasons, and then the person they had that next year didn't work out, and then they just gave me free rein, and I feel very blessed, because there was a lot, and I know I was blessed in my career. I mean, literally half my life was spent in that building, and granted, you have lots of ups and downs, but I feel blessed because for the most part, my administration really trusted my instincts throughout my career, and trusted that I was trying to create opportunities for all kids and for all students, no matter what they came, where their economic abilities were, what experience they may have had prior to walking in. The majority of the students that I worked with at Wheeling, at least 85% of them had never had any formal training before they walked in the doors. Right. And I always say that
that would be the student body you would have. Sure.
And I always say, like, in cultural or concert dance. Right. So, so I feel blessed because I had a great career, and a lot of support to try different things along the way. But I'm also a person that, like, if someone says, "Oh, I don't know if we could do this," I was always a person like, well, when people come up with all the reasons why something might not work, my first instinct is, well, why don't we give it a try? And then we can decide if it worked.
And also, it might not have worked at this time, but maybe this time it will work if we just tweak it a bit or whatever, right? Not just say no to that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Which is kind of fun with Beatrice, because what she reminded me of when I retired was that I said a resounding yes to something to her senior year. The art teacher and I did. And it actually not only did become a catalyst for some of her things, we let her do basically a one-woman show her senior year.
So Beatrice, my producer, you're a student. So tell us about what she did in her senior year at school.
Well, she kind of, I got to back up.
Okay.
So Beatrice, she's always a story that I actually shared over the years. Because when she auditioned for Orchesis, the dance company, we would do improvisation as part of the audition. And she got in front of the judges and screamed at the top of her lungs. And during the improvisation, she just came up, screamed, and walked away. And I went, I want her. And so did the other judges. Just because, she was fearless. She was willing to just throw it all out there and, be vocal. And that actually was what got her in, and along with other things, but that definitely was a tipping point. And I've shared that story throughout my career with other kids who are just the idea of just go for something. Right. So, and don't worry about what others think or if they jump in response. So her senior year, she wanted to do like her own choreographed, written, produced show. And the art teacher and I said, yeah, let's do this. And and again, after I retired, she kind of reminded me of this. And I was like, oh yeah, wow. And so we let her do her own show her senior year. And that actually became the catalyst for a project that then the art teacher and I continued at the school. We had for 26 years, well, it's still going on.
Right.
So a project called Fusion, which was a student created, produced show with no auditions and based on a theme. And myself and the other we called ourselves the co-facilitators. We would facilitate the production, but it was a student created production. And that, that actually, that whole idea of giving students a voice and giving them an opportunity to collaborate and not have to fit in any role of someone else. And that's what was always so great about these things, is that if you're in a play, you got to fit the part, and you're cast on whether or not you fit the part. Whereas what Beatrice started and then what actually continued throughout Wheeling and is still going to this day is you don't have to fit a part. It's up to you to make the part. Like, it's up to you to make what it's going to be.
What a wonderful life lesson, because let's think of all the different ways that we all have to fit in. To perhaps in school, sit in the seat, get the homework done, answer the question, a job. There's so many different ways that we're asked to fit in. And we might be the square peg in the round hole and say, yeah, I don't think, and that is not usually encouraged, accepted, or like, woohoo, we got a round peg for the square hole, But when you give an opportunity like that to say, whatever you do is going to be great, so just go for it, is wonderful lesson, because really in all our lives, we have rules to follow in jobs and other places in society, but being who we are is equally as important to figuring out how do those two balance,
And that was, and even like with the student dance company that I ran and a lot of the different things that I did at Wheeling. And that always kind of was where I felt was a gift to be with the teens, and to be able to be a person that gave them those chances, and to support their ideas. I mean, even like the student choreographers, some of the pieces that we did were pretty out there, but it was great. I always tease, there was a piece we did on, little scooters, like the little playground scooters. And that piece like ended up being performed at the State Dance Festival, like a piece that we did, a punk circus piece that a choreographer just kind of went, okay, I'm just going to throw this at them and see what happens. It ended up getting performed at the gala at the National High School Dance Festival. Like but I always kind of say it wasn't by accident that happened either. So like InterPlay, this improv work was a huge part of my curriculum. So having the students accept what everyone brings to the table and not valuing it on how high they can kick their legs or how many times they turn, but valuing on what they bring to a situation. And then learning how to value that with each other. I always used to say when the students graduated that if you know how to find support for your vision, and more importantly, if you also know how to be a support for someone else's vision, then I've done my job.
Exactly. And just think about, first of all, you're giving them permission to have a vision. Look inside yourself, see what it is, or let's find out what it's not, and then we can narrow it down, and then have respect for it, and respect for somebody else is another great life lesson, when you go out there. So when you would do the InterPlay, I love that, the improvisational, I just love that. Because it also gives them an opportunity to find strength or courage or not give a damn and just do it. Whatever motivates, exactly, that's wonderful.
Well, and another cool thing about the students having some background in improvisation, which is one of the life lessons of improvisation, is one of the fears, especially with a performer, is, well, what happens if something goes wrong? Like, how do I react to that? And and that happens. Lights go out, someone breaks their foot before they're supposed to walk on stage. I mean, those things happen, and someone runs into a lighting boom and knocks themselves out. Like, I mean, those things happen, right? So by having a background, whether the kids liked it or not, at least knowing not only that they had a background in improvisation, but so did everyone else, that if something unexpected happened, they could just go with it. Like, they could go with the flow, and not only could they, but so could everyone else they were with go with. And that was an important thing with, like all those kinds of things too. Like, not only, because it's one thing if you're like, oh, I can go with the flow, but then if you know that everyone you're actually part of a community with has that same tool and has been trained in that tool, then you can kind of work with one another to resolve it and to fix it.
It gives you, you're reminding me when my child, an adult now, was in I guess it was a contest in school, singing, maybe talent contest. And it was Friday afternoon. Everybody was in the, multi-purpose room. It was hot, and he was going to be the last act. Right, exactly. I was worried. And when he went to go on, the whole system of sound went out. And so they came out and said, he would be out in a minute. And I thought, oh, this isn't going anyplace good, and I'm already preparing for how to help him later after this, and he came out and sang Burning Down the House a cappella.
Mm-hmm. And
there were other adults there, parents, burning down the house. Yeah. And they're singing with them. And I was so proud that he found within himself the wherewithal to get out there and sing and not get caught up in, I don't have the music and I don't have this, and nobody's paying attention because they just want to get the hell out of here. That I often bring that story up. And it's exactly what you're talking about, knowing that when things go wrong, there's still a way to deal with it and to respond to it.
And the reality is that not only was his piece the most memorable for that thing, which, at first was like, oh God, let's get this over. So his piece was the most memorable, and that story is the one that carries on. Like, that's the story that becomes, and often too, when those things happen that are unexpected, those often though become like the pivots. And like in improvisation, those might be the pivots of things you weren't thinking of doing. It's like, oh wait, let's go that direction,
That's right.
Yeah, but so that particular song and that of all those like talent shows that were done at that school, his song would be the one most.
And of all the talent shows he's been in, it's the only song I remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly like that. I just love that. So for yourself, have you kept dancing, and how does that work for you?
So I still practice yoga, and I have practiced it for most of my life. And I did it. I got more into it, especially after my children were born, because that's a whole nother, your life changes and your physical body changes. And then I was teaching 5 classes a day at school. The start teaching 180 to 200 kids every day. So it's tough on the body as the body ages too.
Sure.
So definitely doing yoga. I've stayed involved in my InterPlay, my improvisation work. In fact, we're having our first, the InterPlay community in Chicago is actually performing on Sunday. and an outdoor performance. And we actually have a Zoom rehearsal later today. And we haven't had a chance to do that in like a year and a half.
Wow.
So that's the dancing I actually do at this point is all interplay and improvisation related at this point in my life.
So a little birdie told me that you're going to be doing interplay near me here in the Catskills.
Yes, I am
excited. And when will you be coming here?
I am coming in November. It's the weekend, I think, of November 13th and 14th that I'll be doing workshops out there. And it'll be not only, so the beautiful thing about interplay, it's for all ages. And I mean, I've done interplay with people in their 80s, with, children, like all over the board. And it's for people from all walks of life. And it's not that, when I found interplay, I was like, oh my God, the dance community needs this, because it is, I call it my tribe. And I have people that I've been involved with interplay all over the globe that are social workers and activists and ministers and performers and healing professionals and teachers and, moms of triplets and just all kinds of people that, like, for me personally, has been wonderful too, because whenever you get involved, whenever whatever your career becomes, your circle kind of gets smaller and smaller, the people you interact with. And with interplay, the circle just kept expanding and expanding of all the people that are kind of part of my tribe. So that's what I love about the interplay work, because it really is, it is for everybody. And it's, it's for everyone.
Love it.
And yeah.
That's something you could show us?
Sure. So interplay has so there's a lot of different forms of interplay. There's movement-based forms, there's vocalization forms, there's storytelling, there's music, there's, just improvisation toning. But one of the forms I'm going to show you is called a DT3, and it's dance, talk, dance, talk, dance, talk. And part of the improvisation interplay is you don't have to know like where it's going. You don't have to worry about what it ends up as. You just kind of do with what comes. So I'm going to do what's called a DT3 for you, dance, talk, dance, talk. And to prove that it's actually an improvisation, yes, I need you to give me a prompt.
Okay. And the prompt would be what?
Anything, a word, a thought. I mean, I've had students do improvisations on a dog chasing a squirrel. Like,
all right, I won't steal that one. I'll think of something else.
Or Beatrice can give me one. She's right there.
It's funny when you're saying dance, talk. I thought I've already got the talking and just going, so I could get the dancing and do this with you at one point. Let me see.
Sometimes we call it MTMT, so it's move talks, because sometimes if people hear the word dance, I'm not a dancer.
Right, right. It's just movement. Yes, I'm sorry.
Moving through butter. Oh, Beatrice.
I wouldn't have picked that one, Diane. I just want to go on record as saying that.
No, you know what? Because that was actually an improvisation I think she had to do when she auditioned for Orchesis 20-some years ago.
Yes, I think she's going under the turnabout is fair play.
Okay, Beatrice, you got it, girl. All right. So winter's coming. Dry, scaly skin. No matter the humidity in your house, doesn't matter. Found a beautiful thing that seems to help this 60-year-old body. The secret. Shea butter. Shea butter.
Love it. Let me see. I was just about to get you this. Hold on.
Oh, you're going to show me a shea butter?
Okay, so it's goat milk, hand cream, and body cream. I was going to send through the screen to you. Love it. Love it. Okay, I'm in. That's good. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. You don't have to know where it starts, where it goes, just what the words ring in your soul and say. Absolutely. Love it. Oh, I can just see so many people just really enjoying this and moving. Right.
Yeah.
So, as I'm sure you've done before or thought about, what are the benefits of this kind of work, InterPlay?
So wow. So one of the big benefits, one of the beauties of InterPlay specifically is, so a lot of improvisational forms are what I call goal-oriented. Let's work on your improvisation to build the performer. Let's work on the improvisation for choreographic ideas, or maybe if it's a theater production, for, theater content, or to work on character building. Improvisation, the InterPlay is about building community. That's it. Like, it's through improvisation, we build community with the people we are at the time and the space we're there. And that's it. Like, that's the goal of InterPlay, is to create a community of people that have come in from all walks of life, wherever they might be. And when we experience it together, we create that community together. But we do it through improvisational activities. So that's, for me, what's always been so beautiful about InterPlay, because a lot of, I've been involved in dance and performing arts my whole life, and there's all kinds of improvisation out there. But for me, InterPlay's main goal is to build community. It happens through music, through storytelling.
Interesting you're saying that. So I'm thinking, as you're saying that if you're going to have a recital, you decide who's going to play what part or what piece. And then there's rehearsal. And a usually set of performances is put together for the recital. Mm-hmm. So there's two communities there, the one that you're making the show with and the one you present it to. But you're talking about, if I understand correctly, is the community right there. Mm-hmm. Of what you've made. And so it might be momentary.
Yep.
And you could do it again next week and a different community is made.
Yes.
And that is good enough. That is complete just as it is.
Yes.
What? Oh God,
one of my favorite, when I came in as I've had a lot of really great experiences teaching InterPlay. To all kinds of different communities. But one of my favorites was I went in and did a day of InterPlay for a school district in Nashville, Tennessee. And they wanted to do some kind of like a professional development thing, but that brought people together, and all this kind of stuff. And it was everything from the custodial staff to like superintendent was going to be in this workshop together. So the person that was bringing him in was an InterPlayer, and we were brainstorming, and I said, what if we let people make up their own name that day? Because they knew each other like by their roles of who was what.
That's right.
And we wanted to give them the freedom to just be who they were, and they wanted to be that day. Right. So when we walked in, we let no one knew anyone's title, no one knew anyone's names. We walked in and we let them make up a name for the day for themselves. And it was so much fun because no one had to play any of these roles. If a custodian's working with the human resource director on an improv, there's going to be this thing, right? So everyone was just free to be who they were. At the end of the day, I gave them the choice of actually saying their real name and their real title. They didn't want to do it. And that for me was so telling.
Absolutely.
And it was so beautiful Because even the person that's like, the human resource director or the superintendent, they don't get a chance to just come in and be themselves.
That's right.
So for me, that's one of that still was like a pivotal moment in my work in leading InterPlay, was giving people that, that permission to just walk in as an individual, not as anything else, just who they are at that moment, or who they might want to be that moment. Like, people made up really fun names for themselves.
I just love it. There's it's new to me, TV show where somebody comes, I forget the name. They're backstage with the headgear on and singing a song. And what the judges see is, I guess, an animated version of them. And that person sings with the person in the background's voice and movements. So I thought, isn't that a beautiful way that no one gets judged by the exterior of what holds their spirit? I don't know if they get to pick what the judges see, or what. But to me, it would be so freeing. I could see if somebody was nervous to go and sing as themselves, which is the reason many people become actors or an actor in their life, because playing the role is easier than being themselves.
Right.
All different forms of the same thing. I just love it. So, in this podcast season, which I've called Weathering the Storm, because we're still in the storm of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
And Cultivating Kindness, not just being kind, not, you have to dig for it these days. What cultivates kindness for you in your world?
I think for me, how we treat one another and teaching, like, again, one of my big things, as a teacher for all those years, was how do we teach people to be kind and be respectful of one another? We don't know one another's stories. Right. And one of the things, like, I've loved for the improvisation and the InterPlay work is it gives us a chance to be non-judgmental and to just throw things out there, and give us a chance to share parts of our story or not share them or make them up. But how do we treat each other as individuals? And that, for me, that actually was part of my training. I had a couple amazing mentors in my life who treated us as people first, dancers second. And so for me, that opening the door for teaching, not just teens, because we can pretend as adults that, oh no, we are non-judgmental. Yeah, right.
If you're human.
Yeah, exactly.
Comes with the territory. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, teaching, having a way and having tools for kind of opening the door for people to just see one another and the talents and the gifts that they have, instead of what they don't have. One of the things, though, about kindness is, and this is one of the big lessons in improvisation and life, is being able to accept it for yourself. I heard the giggle. We are so good, and we're so trained in, teaching how, and especially as a teacher, it's give. And that's, like, for me, that's the point I'm at right now in my life, because my whole life was about giving and creating opportunities and all this other stuff for everybody else. And now it's like stepping back, and now how do I actually receive?
Exactly.
And receive with grace if someone reaches out that wants to show kindness to me. And that's something that we're not taught how to do very well. Right.
That's right.
And, in the InterPlay work, we work with what we call affirmation, sharing the good. When we comment about what someone's doing, we just say what they're doing, not our opinion of what they're doing, or not even I liked that, because I like is still creating a judgment.
Absolutely.
Just what did you see? So, and at this point in my life, I'm having to learn how to accept, and that's a challenge for me. It's a challenge, and that's weird to say. Like, okay, I'm 60 years old, and it's a challenge for me to accept like grace or kindness from someone else.
Well, then I have good news for you, is that in my work, besides this podcast, a therapist is life, loss, and grief. Okay. So I see people when, as they would put it, it falls apart and they don't know what else to do. And often people would say, and usually the clientele is a smart, educated, compassionate woman. Okay. And what I hear most often is, how did I get to this point in my life? And they don't mean 25. And not know this, not know how to accept. So you're in good company. So
Yeah.
It's not like you forgot to take the class and you failed. But we don't live in a culture that honors receiving as much as it does giving.
Right.
Someone may say, oh, this person volunteered for this, and she did this, and she did this. And they don't also include it in, oh, what she accepted from other people to let do for her is just such a long list. Said nobody ever. Right. So when something isn't valued, we don't see it as something we should work on as a goal. We don't even know we're supposed to be thinking about it until we come to this place where we've given and given and given, and we start to expand our thoughts of what is it I want to do at this point in my life. Someone goes to give something and you're like, wait a minute, what do I do with this? Exactly, and when we talk about people that we take care of, and I often have people list for me who they take care of, and of course they're not even on page 2 often, forget page 1, forget being at the top of the list, right. But it's just like anything else we've done in life. Again, what are we looking at? Balance, giving and receiving,
and creating. Yeah. So when I retired, the InterPlay community did like a Zoom retirement party for me. And one of the things they said was, give yourself a pause. I kind of say that I'm living in the pause right now. Good. Give yourself a pause, give yourself some time, and see what evolves.
That's right.
For everything that you've done for everyone else, see what evolves. And the beautiful thing about this is one of the first people that reached out to me after I retired was Beatrice. And she's like, okay, so when you're ready to talk, let's talk. I was like, something so not on my radar.
Right.
And yet it's exciting to think of, what might someone else be dreaming of that, I've dreamed of and helped create for all these people, all these years, and all these kids, all these years. And, what might someone else be dreaming of where they see that I might be able to be part of. And that's a whole nother part of this journey, but
it's exciting and it's scary.
Yeah.
Because you're not in control.
No.
And not that any of us have control issues. However, we all do. Right. I think that's all so wonderful. So as you're cultivating kindness, and you won't like this, so I'll just preface it by saying that, what kindness shown to you or could be shown to you would be so meaningful to you?
Well, it's starting to happen, which is beautiful. Like my alumni, I'm going to cry. So when I retired, I had over 100 alumni contact me in different ways. and tell me stories of what their relationship with me meant to them at that point of their lives. And stories that I didn't, things that I didn't even, I mean, I knew I did, but I didn't realize how impactful they were.
Right.
And everything, big stories, little stories, the reality that in 1994, I had Wheeling High School students dance on the Dance for Life parade, Dance for Life float at the Pride Parade. I'm like, what did I do? Like, I didn't even remember
Right,
that.
right.
But they're like, wow, like at that point of our lives, you were introducing us to so many people. And so for me, that kindness has been really, really powerful, because it means that what I've done mattered.
Absolutely. And you accepted their bringing the kindness and telling their story.
Yeah.
Graciousness and grace. And that to me is everything.
Yeah.
Right. Not just, oh, go on. I'm not that, thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
It did. Right. It really did. And it's been really powerful, because it's been really powerful, because it really, they're sharing things with me that I didn't know made as much an impact as they did.
And how wonderful to, first of all, to know the impact we have on people, to know that they're willing to share.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go through the time in your life where you're seeing what evolves, and it's important to know that our lives have value.
Right.
I do life, loss, and grief, death and dying. So, the end of life, people aren't saying, wow, that was a great party I threw. No, they're talking about the little moments of grace and gratitude and kindness and hope. And to know that as we think about those things, that they're there, which is from the tears come,
Yeah. And what I find so fun, what interesting about it is, okay, so I taught dance, right? For 30 years at a high school level. I had over 300 students a year. Do the math, right?
Yeah, right.
That's a lot of people.
No, it is.
Exactly.
Right.
A lot of people that I've taught in my career. And of all the things that people have shared, not one of them has said, oh, I learned how to do this technical skill.
Exactly.
Not one. It was all the other stuff that they shared.
You taught me that I could try. You showed me that it's possible for a non-dancer to be a dancer. Yes, it's those moments that people remember at the end of life and how other people impacted us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, isn't that? That's beautiful. Oh, I just love all of this. Wow.
Yeah. So now, and so now I'm in a new phase, and, it's people like, oh, how are you adjusting to retirement? I go, well, I kind of like not setting an alarm.
Right.
That's nice. I'm a night person naturally. So I've been able to play with that a little bit again. But it's interesting not to be planning, and scheming and strategizing. I miss the day, I miss teaching for sure. There's a lot of things I don't miss about it, but it is interesting. I liked the phrase living in the pause. And when I first was kind of gearing up for my retirement, I was kind of picturing it as having this big, heavy backpack. And I was giving resources to some of my people I'd mentored, and I was giving away my books and all this kind of stuff, and slowly releasing the backpack as I climbed the mountain, so that when I got to the top of the mountain, all I would have left would be the parachute, and I would just kind of jump off the edge and see what happened. Well, as I've now kind of gotten to that point, I'm realizing that I actually just want to stay on top of the mountain for a while. Good. And see what the path that I was on, reflect on that, look at the view, see what might be out there, but not necessarily feel like I just have to go jump. So, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
From a therapeutic standpoint, good choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, after somebody has what I call a profound loss, of course, the wisdom is not to make any big changes for about a year. And that's the same for a transition or a change or anything, because we really don't know who we are at this moment after this transition. And it takes a bit more than a moment to begin to learn who we are. Because I think of it as percolating up. Remember, you might have seen this, the old coffee pots they had on the campfires would percolate up. Well, that's what I think of as your current situation that you're talking about. So you have the pot, the water, the coffee grounds, but you've never put it on this fire before. You've never made this pot of coffee. So let's see what percolates up. And to announce to yourself or anyone else, this is what it's going to be, is really speaking about something that hasn't happened yet. So how could you know? You could have an image of it. But if you just let it percolate up and feel, as in improvisational or interplay, just let it be. Wow, this is great. Let me see what it is. And it'll surprise you what comes up.
Yeah.
It surprises everyone else I've worked with. So I'm going to guess it will surprise you. And that's the joy of it, because there isn't any goal. It doesn't have to be this or it doesn't have to be that. Really, all it has to do is feed your soul. You figured out how to feed your stomach. We know how to feed our head. We're like overachievers in that realm. But when we learn how to feed our soul at every level and developmental change in our life, well, now we got it, Absolutely. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So as
we're doing interplay, breathe in, breathe out with a sigh. Breathe in, breathe out with a roar.
Oh, I know how to roar. Wonderful. So I'm hearing that throughout your career, kindness was an integral part of it.
Yeah.
And it's so necessary in today's world to cultivate kindness, because there's so much in the energy in the worlds around us that make it hard to be kind. I find that I'm almost saying to people, be kind, damn it, be kind. That may not be the best way. I'm just saying I could maybe find something different there. But I find it essential that we have hope and kindness to ourselves and others. I think doing it to others, we have more experience at. So my wish for you after this beautiful interview is to say, be kind to yourself.
I'm working on it.
Wonderful. Well, can't ask more than that. Yep. Wow, this has been great.
Thanks.
Diane, I want to thank you for such an interesting interview that we learned so much, and you allowed us into your space, showed us movement, showed us vulnerability, and I love that you showed us a human in the midst of change. That's pretty darn brave. So thanks so very much. Here on the podcast, From Heartache to Healing and Hope. Thank you.
Thank you.